A man stands alone on a cliff. Below him, darkness and a 400-foot drop. Above him, enemy fire. Around him, the dying. He has no rifle, no sidearm, no knife. He has a rope and a prayer. He ties the rope around a wounded soldier, leans over the edge, and lowers him down. Then he turns back. Not away from the gunfire, not away from the screams, back toward them. And by the time the sun rises, dozens of men are alive who should not be. The army almost threw this man out as a coward. This is not a story about a hero who fought. This is a story about a man who refused to and saved more lives than almost anyone who did. But what made a man walk into that without a weapon? That story starts long before Okinawa. Desmond Thomas Doss was born on February 7, 1919, in Lynchburg, Virginia. His father was a World War I veteran, one of the few men from his unit who came home alive. That survival came at a cost. He drank to quiet what he had seen. And when the alcohol took over, the family paid the price. Desmond watched his mother absorb most of it, night after night. One evening, the situation broke completely. His father pulled out a gun. Desmond stepped forward and took it from his father's hand. He came that close to pulling the trigger. On the wall of his childhood home hung a picture he had looked at his entire life. Cain standing over the body of Abel, a brother over his brother. That night, it looked different. He put the gun down and made a decision he would never change. He would never take a life. Not ever. Under any circumstances. For any reason. He was a teenager. He meant every word. December 7, 1941. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Over 2,000 Americans were killed that morning. The next day, recruitment offices across the country had lines out the door. Desmond was 22. He had a defense job, a legal deferment, a way to stay home. He couldn't take it. He could not carry a weapon, but he could not stay home while others bled. So he enlisted as a combat medic. No weapon, no protection, right in the middle of the fighting. Before he shipped out, his fiancée Dorothy gave him a small Bible. She put her photograph inside. He carried it with him through the war. The Army accepted him. His unit was a different story. From the first day of basic training, Doss was a problem. Not because he was weak, not because he was slow, because he was different. He refused to train with a rifle. He refused to work on Saturdays, his Sabbath. His officers tried to have him discharged on psychiatric grounds. A man who wanted to serve, who asked only to save lives instead of take them, was being pushed out of the military for being mentally unfit. The psychiatric evaluation cleared him, so they tried to make him quit. Every dirty job, every extra shift, his belongings thrown around, Dorothy's photograph stolen, passed around the barracks. He said nothing. He cleaned up, he remade his bunk, he kept going. Then one night, his own bunkmates dragged him out of his bunk and beat him. The next morning, his sergeant found blood on the sheets. Name them. He refused to name anyone. He told the sergeant he must have fallen in his sleep. He protected the men who had just beaten him. Nobody called him a coward again after that morning. His first leave arrived, the day he was supposed to marry Dorothy. An officer blocked it at the last moment. Qualify on the rifle range first. Refused. Direct order. Refused again. Dorothy waited at the church until the pastor told her it was time to go home. They arrested Desmond Doss, charged him with disobeying a direct order in wartime, military prison, for the duration of the war. Then the door opened. His father walked in, William Doss, the broken veteran. The man Desmond had once almost shot, wearing his old World War I uniform. He had gone to his former commanding general, swallowed every ounce of pride he had left, and asked for help for his son. The letter he placed before the judge cited an act of Congress. Desmond T. Doss had the legal right to serve without bearing arms. The charges were dropped. He married Dorothy the following week. She had known all along he wouldn't bend. April 1945, Okinawa. Over 80 days of fighting, tens of thousands of casualties on both sides. Doss's unit, the 77th Infantry Division, was assigned to a near-vertical cliff face in the center of the Japanese defensive line, 400 feet of exposed rock. At the top, machine guns, mortars, and an enemy with orders to hold at any cost. Doss climbed with them, no weapon, only his medical kit. When they reached the top, it was quiet. Then the ground erupted. The Japanese emerged from concealed positions and struck fast. Doss moved through it without stopping. Tourniquet, morphine, drag, move, find the next man, then the next. Men who had treated him with contempt at boot camp were now calling his name. He answered every one of them. Before dawn, the Japanese counterattacked. Out of tunnels. Behind the American lines. No warning. The order came. Full retreat. Of the hundreds who had gone up, only a fraction made it back. Wounded soldiers lay across the battlefield, bleeding, unconscious, calling for help. Doss stayed, not because he was ordered to, because he could still hear them. He moved across the open ground alone, dragging men to the edge of the cliff one by one. Then he found a rope. He looped it around the first man, used his own body as the anchor, and lowered him slowly to the ground below. Then he climbed back up and found the next man. Each trip, exposed to enemy fire. Each return, a deliberate choice to go back in. He could have stopped after the first man, after 5, after 10. He did not stop. He was praying the entire time. Please, Lord, help me get one more. Just one more. And after each one, he went back and asked again. Near the end of the battle, a grenade landed at his feet. It detonated. Multiple fragments drove into his legs. He treated his own wounds, then lay in the open for hours, waiting for a stretcher. When one arrived, he gave it to a soldier who was worse. While waiting for the next, a sniper put a bullet through his arm. He splinted it with his rifle and crawled to the aid station himself. They carried him off that cliff the same way he had sent 75 others, flat on his back, his hand tight around Dorothy's Bible. Every soldier he passed stepped aside, not because they were ordered to. On October 12, 1945, President Harry S. Truman placed the Medal of Honor around Desmond Doss's neck, the first conscientious objector in American history to receive it. Desmond Doss never fired a weapon, never threw a grenade, never took a life. The army that tried to discharge him for being a coward gave him the highest military honor in the United States. The men who beat him in the barracks fought to be the ones who carried him down. Among the men he lowered off that cliff were soldiers who had mocked him since boot camp. He was just the man on the cliff, with a rope and a prayer. He died on March 23, 2006. He was 87 years old. He would speak for the rest of his life about the men he couldn't save.